to the East Coast folks, and good morning to our West Coast folks. This is our first Civics Web Chat that we have done. So this is put on by the FMJA's Civics Outreach and Education Committee. And we had this notion that we were going to start doing these programs where we have sort of a low intensity conversation among magistrate judges about ways to get involved with civics education and outreach. So today's program is going to be focused on the anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, the 250th anniversary, and we are going to hear from a couple of panelists who are going to talk about some of the ways to get involved, some of the programs that are available. I'm very hopeful, and I think it's going to deliver here that this is going to be good for magistrate judges who have never done any sort of civics education or outreach. It'll be a great presentation for figuring out where to start if you've never done it, or if you've got something that exists in your district, but you want to do something a little bit different. And even for folks who are very actively engaged and already doing a lot of this work, I think you're going to find a lot of value here as well, because this may involve some programs that you've never presented on, or you might be able to share some of your experiences too with some other folks who are looking to get started. Now, we're going to talk about the 250th anniversary and how these programs tie in, but I want to emphasize that these are programs that you can use anytime, and they are very adaptable and can be implemented throughout the country in varying ways of scalability and tailored to fit your various communities. I want to talk a little bit about the format, because we've got a lot of participants. So the way that we're going to go today is Cece has very graciously agreed to help us with running the Zoom call. So I'm going to have a conversation with our panelists, and they're going to present and put up some visuals. We've got one very short video that we're going to show a little bit later on in the presentation. Cece is going to keep every attendee's microphone muted for now, and Judge Vaughn, who's my co-chair on the Civics Committee, she's going to monitor the chat for any sort of questions. We want you to ask questions throughout the presentation. Don't hold them for the end. If you've got something that you want to ask, go ahead and put it there in the chat, and Judge Vaughn will ask those questions. Same thing with comments, experiences, war stories, anything like that that you want to add in there. Just put it in the chat, or say you've got something to add. Judge Vaughn will call on you, and Cece will be able to unmute your microphone. That way we don't have a lot of background noise. So the presentation here today, like I said, we've got a couple of panelists who have very generously offered up their time to talk with all of our members about different civics outreach. So our two panelists are going to be Ms. Fanning, who's the National Education Outreach Manager with the Administrative Office of the U.S. Courts, and Judge Zia Faruqi, who I think is joining right now, who is a magistrate judge in the District of Columbia. So Ms. Fanning, if you could, I'd like to call on you first. If you could start by telling us a little bit about your role at the Administrative Office.
Hey, well, thank you, Judge Cheesebro and Judge Vaughn. It's been great fun working with you. And, I love working with judges because you come prepared, you've got ideas, and the two of you certainly filled that bill. Thank you. And first, I'd just like to say that magistrate judges really are the backbone of our educational outreach. If you want people who will show up and innovate and make a program their own, I turn to magistrate judges and great ideas. And I love it when a judge will approach me and say, I've been kind of thinking about this. I love to do custom-made programs for you. So my message to you is find your comfort zone. What age group? Do you feel comfortable with elementary students, high school, community college, law school? Whatever it is, we can build a program around your personal interests and your comfort zone. So what I do is I develop national initiatives that bring local kids into their nearby federal courthouse to do a realistic simulation, not a mock trial. These are issues that are landmark Supreme Court cases, but we superimpose on them a fictional teen scenario that they can relate to. So Tinker v. Des Moines, we have a school walkout protesting the latest school dress code that says you can't have any wording or logos on your clothing. And Judge Fruki, I call him the jazz band leader of our jazz lab because he wears his neon Nikes, and the kids can really relate to that. And they kind of get the feeling that he's of like kind of a like-minded spirit. So again, it's find your maturity level, right, Judge Fruki, and roll with
Yes.
that.
Well, the good news is that I've established the basement for the maturity level, and so I'm sure anyone else will surpass that.
Well, and the fun part is we test everything in Washington, D.C. I used to call it my test kitchen, but when Judge Froki came on board, I had to call it a jazz lab because we get in there and we innovate and we improvise. So everything that you see on the website, uscourts.gov or JNet, is something that I've conceived of, developed, worked with other judges to fine tune. So I'm going to leave it at that.
All right, that's wonderful. Now you're coming up with a lot of these initiatives, but I know that you're very hands-on too, both working with the individual judges and then with partnering with some other organizations too. Could you tell us just a little bit about that role, working with individual judges and their programs and these other organizations?
Oh, yes. The programs that you see on our website are ideas that are collaborations with judges. So, one of our flagship programs is Civil Discourse and Difficult Decisions. That's the simulation program I mentioned. Then we have judges go into their classrooms, and that's called Candid Conversations. And I built that around Judge Faruqi's talents of relating to students. And so he goes into alternative schools and all kinds of schools in the DC area and opens it up. We'll go into that program. But the partnership part comes in with the Federal Bar Association. If I have one tip for you, it is the Federal Bar Association has a civics liaison in each chapter. If they don't have a liaison, you would talk to the president. And that will make your life so easy because they will recruit the school. They will get the teacher on board. They will set everything up. So you just go out into the courtroom and act like a judge during the program or go to the classroom. So that's a really important one. And then I've got in, and that's in the web on the chat. And then I've also got in the chat the Civics Renewal Network. That's 50 of the very top nonpartisan, nonprofit civics education organizations, everything from the National Constitution Center to Street Law. And you can contact them and say, in Philadelphia, for example, the judges said, we'd like to have a judge chat. The National Constitution Center provides the venue, the promotion, and the students. The judge just shows up and talks with the students. So partnership is really important.
Wonderful. Judge Faruqi, you've been mentioned a couple of times and talk about your role in civics education. Maybe you could tell us a little bit both about your path to the bench and then about the ways that you have engaged in the community on civics education and outreach.
Sure. Thanks everybody for your patience. So it's a little still frazzled down here in DC with schools being closed. But I actually met, if I could, as part of my journey to the bench, I'll say I was a federal prosecutor. That's actually where I met Rebecca. So I was one of the AUSAs who got funneled towards her programming that was through, I think it was with, at the time, Judge Sullivan, Judge Lambert, who were doing some of the programming, and our chief judge now, Judge Boasberg. So they had a pretty regular portfolio already of programs, and they drew from the U.S. Attorney's Office. So that's how I found out. I came to meet Rebecca, which was very fortuitous for me. But just to step back for a moment, I think what's most relevant about my journey to the bench is just I think my background, which is relevant to students. I imagine for my experience from Baby Judge School, speaking to our colleagues there, is that we all have pretty diverse background. And I mean that in truly it's the technical sense of the word, right? We come from small towns, big towns, rural people who had lawyers in their families, some who had none. And so for me, my background is my dad passed away when I was pretty young. It's just my mom and I, and she went to community college, and that has been a point of connection between me and students. The loss of my dad and was really what prompted me to get interested in the law as a way to have a voice for myself and my mom. We felt like we didn't. And it's something that throughout my life, as my mom struggled not once, but twice with cancer diagnosis, second one being pretty severe, I felt that there was a difference when I was a lawyer and had, an opportunity to advocate for her versus not being able to do that for my dad. So I think that being able to talk about that was something that was it's important in these programs. I mean, was speaking earlier today to someone who's applying to a state court position, and she just said it was very difficult for her to talk about her personal journey. And she is a very compelling one. And I just said, look, I hear you. I never spoke to anybody for about 10 years after my dad died, except for a school counselor about how that impacted me. And that caused a lot of challenges in my own life. And now it's something that I mean, I'm telling a room full of Zoom strangers. And more importantly, I talk about with students all the time. And each time it still is something that's challenging. But there has not been, and this is not exaggeration, there's not been a single time where I haven't had at least one student come up to me and approach me and say, that means so much to me. I've had a similar situation with either a parent who has had cancer and passed away, or a family member who's passed away. And it's, I feel very fortunate to be able to try to give some sort of space and hope to these kids that there is a future still for them, because a lot of them are pretty hopeless, and when they should not be, certainly for those reasons. So I was an AUSA after spending some time in a law firm, and came to the bench. And like many people throughout the country now, I think I feel very concerned about the trajectory of the country in terms of how we can, like, part of Rebecca's programming is civil dialogue, right? So it's not just civics, it's how to be civil, which is a foundation of, civics, is that you have to have people that are willing to talk to each other on differing sides. And there's not a lot of that. This is, I think, the most direct way, with all the limitations we have as judges on our advocacy, the things we can do. This is the way that we can try to move our country into a more positive direction, is getting directly with the students who are a generation out maybe from being the leaders, but they are going to be there eventually, and they are shaping dialogue. I mean, if you think of from the civil rights movement to many others, right, young people have been the drivers of change. And so for them to see that judges are just regular people who are concerned and want to be involved in the lives of young people and support them, is something that I think I found, or Rebecca's found, is something that's like a real remedy to what sort of is distressing right now in the times that we're going through.
And Judge Cheeseborough, I'd like to just interject here, because this is a moment where everyone can take something away. I call what Judge Fruki just did his heart reason. And we have the attorney volunteers and the court professionals in our programs all give a 1 minute, 2 minute heart reason. Why did I choose the law? And it's usually built around adversity. We're not interested in their career path or their educational background. We want to get right to, what was that moment? What was that turning point that drew you into the law? So everyone on the call today can take that to their next courthouse tour, their classroom visit, or courtroom program. And I have to say, it is the most highly rated part of our programs. On the feedback, the students say things like, these are high school students, they say, thank you for the gems of wisdom. And so it really touches them, and it creates a rapport and relaxes them.
Yeah, well, the good news is that expectations are very low from the students when they come to meet a judge. They think that we're all going to be very, I guess, very academic and not real people, and that we don't have, even any sort of thoughts about, like, that, there's room for improvement or anything. So basically, much like in my home life is, under promise and over deliver. That's what I think it's very easy to do with students.
Judge Faruqi, it just makes me think. I love the so much about what you just said about, and it underscores something Ms. Fanning said too, is that we sometimes fall into the trap of thinking civics education means, how am I going to teach core constitutional principles to a bunch of ninth graders? This seems like a challenge, but there's a lot of emphasis on the outreach component of this too, which is a very human experience. I heard yesterday on a podcast somebody talking about the legal profession as a whole, and they said that one of the ways that you can become a great lawyer is to focus more than anything else on building relationships. And it's so very true. And it's true for civics outreach and education. And there are so many different facets to the outreach component. It can be that human connection. It can be what we talk about as a vocational component, showing people about careers in the court. Just exposing them to what the legal system is without necessarily hard educational components to it as well. And then the other thing that I do want to seize on that you said, Judge Faruqi, is the sentiment about the urgency that I think we as magistrate judges have right now. I initially thought about it, and I pulled back about talking about how important civics education is at the very beginning, because I know that I'm preaching to the choir. We've got a group of people. If you're signed up for this program, it's because you care about this and because it is so urgent. Um, but to go one step beyond that and to really focus on your point, Judge Faruqi, is there are a lot of ways to connect with people to address some of the urgency and the concerns that we're facing in the country right now that don't always look like those, again, hard and fast kind of educational components. I personally think that there is an enormous, sometimes underappreciated value to civics education and outreach, which is the idea of faith and confidence in the judiciary. Not just teaching people. I mean, sometimes teaching them is what gives that faith and confidence, but it's also the human connection that if you can go and talk to a ninth grader who is skeptical, who's doubtful, who's cynical, who's jaded for many good reasons, and to put a human face on the judiciary, that can have a huge impact. Um, I
I
do
couldn't
want
agree
to
more.
talk about one thing, Ms. Fanning, for you. Magistrate judges are never short on enthusiasm and urgency with this, but we are always short on time and resources. And so I think, in my experience talking with magistrate judges around the country, there's always a tension. How do you find time? How do you work this into your calendar? You're dealing with all these fluid schedules and demands. What are your thoughts about how we overcome that?
Oh, I am so happy to have that opportunity because all my programs I call Just Add a Judge and Stir. You're going to see in the PowerPoint that it takes 30 minutes of preparation, reading the web resources, 10 minutes of a meeting with the other volunteers that are in your program, and then go out and do the program. And I'd like to just tie in with that human face. If you, we don't just wake up in the morning and say, oh, this would be a fun idea. I've got a whole strategic plan. This could be 20 pages, but I've reduced it to a grid. And so, number one objective is to put a human face on the judiciary and the people who work in the court system. And so, nobody has time to do this. And that's why we're going to go through this PowerPoint and you're going to see if you want the easiest bite-sized piece, go into a classroom. We've got a couple of things that will prepare you. 30 minutes, go to class, you're done.
Excellent.
Can I
Kind
jump
of
in real
built,
quick, Ben?
please. Yeah.
I can't emphasize enough. My real calling is I want to be the general counsel to Ralph Lauren, and if anyone knows Ralph Lauren, please direct message me. As I've told I told one of my dear friends, she's like, "Well, it doesn't sound like you want to be his lawyer. It sounds like you just want to hang out with him and talk fashion." I said, "Yes, that's actually true, but that's perhaps the only path I have into it." So I will use a fashion analogy in that Rebecca has off the rack programming and she has bespoke tailoring. She's got it all. I mean, there's just I always joke, and she, doesn't like this, but it's true. I am just her sock puppet. It's so easy. You just show up, and she will have. I mean, if you want a script that's detailed, she'll have that for you. If you want just some bullet points, she'll have that for you. If you're like, look, I don't want to get into the legal part. I have that all day. I just want to talk to kids about, what are they doing for their after school programs. I want to talk about sports. She's got programs for naturalization ceremonies at baseball stadiums where no one's talking about, Tinker versus Des Moines. They're talking about the Cardinals versus the Cubs. And so I can't emphasize enough how important it is to just email Rebecca and say, here's what I want. And she'll either tell you she has it or she'll make it for you. She's got programs for schools where they are in remote areas of Montana to ones where in, New York City urban schools and home schools. I have yet to see. I'm always waiting for someone to get a gotcha questionnaire because someone always say, and not in that way, but when at these programs are like, well, I'm at this school and I'm always thinking to myself, there's no way she's got some for that. And she just pulls out her whole file. So she said, yep, I've got that. And so Rebecca does all the work. And it's just very easy. I appreciate how busy we all are. And she will craft a program that will work with your schedule and your interests. So, I mean, you'll only learn by trying. And you do have to take that initial step of just emailing her and saying, I've got 30 minutes once a month, once every year, and that's not much. Can you do that? And she'll find a school where you can Zoom in for 30 minutes and talk to them, and it'll be super easy. That's what it is.
Well, and that reminds me that we've got some real civics champions on this call. And Judge Seneschal in Fargo, let's see, I think I've got the wrong, but Judge Seneschal worked with us on the Bill of Rights Day. And we had a program like that. She went into classrooms, but oh no, not just this judge. She got a whole network of judges to do that. And they were so popular, they get called back. So keep that in mind. Another one is, let's see, Judge Celeste Bremer was one of the first people I worked with 25 years ago in Iowa. Judge Mimmer in Alexandria, we've had some interactions. In Marquette, Michigan, Judge Vermont. He does adult education. I'm mentioning these so that you can contact these judges, and if something resonates with you, you can get some ideas from them. In Oklahoma City, Judge Suzanne Mitchell has a court camp with the local museum there, the Oklahoma City Museum. And so they provide the venue and staffing. She does a lot of work, but they take the burden off. And then let's see, in Milwaukee, Judge Nancy Joseph had that bulletin last summer after she was president that gave you a whole roundup of ideas and people are doing things. And let's see, one more, Judge Jody Jane. She does this civil discourse program that we've mentioned. So there's a lot of talent that you can draw on. And you might want to think about having a mentor-mentee relationship or a veteran-amateur relationship, because people, and Judge Faruqi has reached out and helped people. And also when he mentions me, I'm happy to do a Zoom call, do a 20-minute orientation with you and the volunteers. Boom, you're ready. You don't need that, but it's something we can do because everything is downloadable from the website. You can change anything and make it your own.
That is all absolutely fantastic. I want to zero in on 2026 now and really start to give folks an idea of what they can do, especially in the next 12 months. Ms. Fanning, we talked a little bit when we were planning this about why 2026 and the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence is meaningful and practical from a civics education and outreach point. What is it about? I mean, some of it may be obvious, but from your perspective, what is it that's going to be special in terms of this being an opportunity year for connecting with folks?
Okay, the thing that's special about this is there's nothing special about it. You can do whatever your heart desire, whatever program you've already been doing. It's just a way in. Teachers, civic organizations, libraries are looking for Declaration of Independence content and programs. So what we've done is we've developed a whole menu, very easy things: classroom venue, courtroom venue, community venue. So we'll go through that. But the key thing is, I don't think I'd even recommend you go heavy into the anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. I think what we want to do is say, this is what we've been doing all along. There's nothing new here. That's just evergreen, tried and true. And also we need to be aware that America 250, the brand, is a minefield. So we have to be very careful and keep it court related.
All right. So I'm going to just share a sentiment that I have, and I think a lot of folks can empathize, is that if you're trying to get a program up and running, some people are in districts where you've got a long-standing practice with a lot of outreach, and really you just have to kind of, jump on the carousel while it's spinning, and you find your place, and it's easy to get there. Other folks may be in districts where you don't have a program running, or sometimes it falls away year over year, and you're trying to get it back up and running. The sentiment is that when I sort of go out and kind of do my cold research, what kind of program I'm going to do next, I frankly feel a little overwhelmed sometimes because there is so much in a way. I mean, whether it's Federal Bar Association or some of these AO programs or individual district programs have been established, it feels almost overwhelming. I don't necessarily know where to start. I don't know what's going to be labor intensive and what's going to be a little bit easier. So what I know you intend to do here today, Ms. Fanning, is really focus attention on three different ways to approach this, three specific forms of outreach. And I know those are kind of falling under this We the People initiative heading. Could you just give us a really high level overview of the three types of programs you're going to talk about, and then maybe start talking about the first one of those?
Yes, I think my advice would be you do you. Yes, it seems very overwhelming, but I can see Judge Faruqi nodding here. Find your way in. What are you interested in? Who's your audience? And then you're going to see all these things that are going on, and you can attach them yourself to them. Maybe it's at your local museum or historical society. Then if you've got your venue, the promotion, and you just show up and be you. So there are going to be so many opportunities to do that. So keep it simple, know what you want to get out of it. And I would suggest too that you have your own message. My message to students is the world belongs to those who follow up. Now, you may have a different kind of message that's more court related, but what I want them to do is when they take my card, get in touch with me. I will set them up with a meeting, a small group meeting with Judge Faruqi. From there, he can set them up with people who can help them in their careers, that kind of thing. So these programs can just be a gateway, but the main thing is tune into what you want to get out of it. Then you tell me when you're ready for the PowerPoint.
Yeah, why don't we let's go ahead and move to that because I know we've got these three programs that we want to look at. What's the first one that you want to focus on? Oh, here we go. We've got a slide that'll kind of point us to the three.
That's right. So go to the next, please. Okay, so this is a menu of three options. A classroom visit, and that's where we do this candid conversation you're going to hear more about. The key thing there is you don't have to prepare a lecture. You just have to be a good judge and tune into the students' questions and bridge into a point you want to make based on their question.
Well,
Now,
and
you
I'd
already,
interject on that is that Rebecca does, she does an advanced kind of on that is that she'll coordinate with the teachers. I've had her write, you've done in the past where, I've just shown up to mostly by Zoom, but a couple times in person as well to the classroom. But Rebecca has met with the teachers beforehand, got her to get, questions, made sure that they're appropriate questions. And the questions usually are pretty good. And so it really is, stuff that's pretty simple for us. Like, how do you decide a detention hearing? Or, do you ever have to consider, whether searches are legal or not? Like, what does the Fourth Amendment, what does that mean to me as a student? So pretty generic, maybe questions seeming to us, well, they're very novice level, maybe they're an easy question to answer, but to the students, ones that they feel directly impacts them. And it's all teed up though for you, ready to go.
that's right. And you have a choice. You can get questions in advance or you can fly into it and see what happens. There have been tough questions like, Judge, what do you do when you see racism in your courtroom? So it's very interesting for you too. And you've already had experience through the Magistrate Judges Association with robes in schools. It's the same kind of thing, just a little variation. And we give you a PowerPoint that you're going to see some slides from here. Number two, so that's
Let me interject really quickly, Ms. Fanning. I do want to talk about robes in school. I expect that most of the folks who are on the call today are familiar with it, but if you're not, what it is a program that this committee and the diversity committee we organize this in association with our national workshops, and at the conclusion of the workshops, we gather a group of volunteer judges right at the end to go out and talk with students. Sometimes they're from civic organizations or doing summer programs, but in advance, the committees get all this coordinated, often in conjunction with some of our executive committee members. And there's really no barrier to entry. You just show up and you're given sort of a program. You go out and you talk. And I can attest myself, and I'm sure that every single person on the call that's done it will tell you that it is enormously rewarding. If you've not done any kind of civics outreach and no education whatsoever, it's a perfect kind of entree into that to kind of see how you can do it without having to put a ton of work in, and it's still extremely meaningful and really rewarding. Sorry, go ahead, Ms. Fanning.
Oh, please, and I can't see the screen, so please, anyone just pipe up, whether you're in the audience or one of the panelists. One of the things to think about too is that you can take someone with you. You could take another judge, you could take an attorney, you could take a non-attorney court person. And so that chemistry really helps. And again, I want to go back to that heart reason. If you give them a heart reason, that breaks the ice. I've never been in a situation where the kids have looked at each other and said that they don't want to participate or they don't raise their hand. There's a lot of energy. The number two is the courtroom simulation. You're going to see a video on that, so I won't take a lot of time on that, and I've already mentioned it. But that's another thing. This is where Judge Faruqi created this innovation where bringing in court employees to tell their heart reason for choosing the law. You're going to see a moment of that in the video. Then number three is community outreach. Now, that would be, we recommend that you consider a naturalization ceremony. In 2016, I created a national initiative to have naturalization ceremonies at National Park service sites because that was the 100th anniversary of the Park Service. So we had them from Ellis Island to Yosemite and all kinds of places in between. In 2019, I started one for professional and Major League and Minor League Baseball, and that was great fun. think we got about 15 teams. And I know we're working on getting the Wizards. So you can do it with football, basketball, whatever. But baseball, we've got a tradition with, and I can send the baseball team a little kit to tell them how to do it. Next slide. Unless we've got thoughts and questions, experiences. All right. Oh, good. Now, can you see me? Because I've got this toolkit on JNet. And it's one page for how to do a naturalization ceremony, how to do a teacher's institute, how to do a candid conversation, how to do the courtroom program. And it really is a checklist. So you and your chamber staff can cook it up and call me and I can help you with it. We also have these resources on YouTube where we've got probably a dozen or more videos on rule of law and other things that are geared to high school students to break the ice to get them talking. And you've seen our resources on uscourts.gov. Next slide. All right, again, you're going to hear me say, find your comfort zone, go to the easiest entry point. And then you can go to high school, middle school, community college, law schools, whatever group you really resonate with. Start with the heart reason. And then we've got this PowerPoint where the kids can choose First Amendment or Fourth Amendment. Next slide. And then the class visit is a little more of a time commitment. You need 20 minutes to review. We're still on the class. So classroom visit, 20 minutes to review the PowerPoint, 20 minutes to meet with your visiting team, and then a 50-minute class period. Next. Here's the agenda. We even give you the agenda. Give your heart reason, show a video that gets them talking, and then ask the students, would you rather explore the First Amendment or the Fourth Amendment? And we've got slides for that. Next. All right, here's the icebreaker video. These kids are great. Unscripted, they tell their favorite amendment and why. And they come up with some really interesting reasons why. Next. That gets your kids in the classroom talking. All right, okay, let's see, we're going to pass by that because we're not going to take time to show it. So you can just go to the next slide. All right, one way to get the students interested in talking about civility and get them really animated is ask them what their pet peeves are, and they are full of them because students feel so dismissed by adults. So you make a list of those behaviors and then you say, okay, let's make a deal. Those are our ground rules. We aren't going to roll our eyes. We're not going to interrupt each other. We're not going to go off on some tangent. Next slide.
Well, just to add, it's just, again, this is why this is so easy. That's all the things our pet peeves as judges, right? Attorneys yelling at each other, talking over each other, being insulting. It's just an easy way to create some camaraderie and fellowship between the students and the judges that like, hey, I'm struggling with the same thing. You're frustrated by the way that sometimes grownups, parents, people in positions of authority talk to you. Well, I'm in the position of authority and I get frustrated the way that attorneys are talking in front of me. And it's sort of an aha moment for the young people is that, oh, okay, that, you're struggling with this too. And, I think Rebecca just does a great job of telling like, we're going to take this feedback. And, I would say like, thanks, this is helpful for me to hear as I'm thinking about, making sure that we have better dialogue and discourse here in the courthouse. I mean, it's amazing. It's such a small thing that the students feel like they are participating then and that, they're feeling like they're making a contribution. It really gives some oxygen to that flame of interest in democracy for them, I think.
And it really makes you and the system more relatable. And we have a one-page quiz that the kids take that helps them reflect on their own behavior. So it all works together. So then we work into the First Amendment. You can see we've pulled out some key phrases. They can pull out their phone and see the actual amendment itself. Next phrase, next slide. And we gave you some starter questions. And then this word cloud helps pull out some words that the students feed back to you and ask questions. So you don't have to prepare a lecture on First Amendment. That'd be the last thing you'd want to do. You just want to be in the moment. Next. Same thing with the Fourth Amendment. We'll just breeze right through this. Next slide. There's your cloud. Next slide. All right, then you wrap it up and say, students, what did you learn about the Bill of Rights and about careers in the law? You can have them take out a piece of paper, say a few words, but if you're running out of time, just have them write it on a piece of paper and the teacher will give it to you. And that's where you're going to get these golden remarks from the kids. Next slide. Okay, That's the same thing. Just have them wrap it up and do some reflection. Teachers love that. Next slide. Okay, level 2, it's low investment but higher return. This is the courtroom simulation you're going to see in the video. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. You can see who the participants are. You don't mix those groups, of course, but we've got programs for every level. You only need 4 attorneys. And that, Judge Fruki, you may want to mention that because you recruit the best attorneys.
Well, I think, again, getting to the acrimony, it may not surprise you that here in DC, there's quite a bit of that. I was fortunate enough to be an AUSA in St. Louis for several years before I came to DC, and it was very different. And I don't mean that in what different it was. One was much better that in terms of how civil people were with each other in St. Louis. So what I like to do is to try to bring people from the opposing sides when possible. Particularly for us, the stakeholders, the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Public Defender's Office, or people from the CJA panel. So to get them to come in and be these volunteer attorneys, I think that's been really helpful to sort of build some camaraderie and friendship between folks who otherwise see each other only in an oppositional setting. It's good for our court. It's good for our community. I think it's great for students too, particularly. I have the bias of I'm a former prosecutor, is that, a lot of students who come in from some of these programs have pretty negative views of prosecutors. And when they actually hear what leads people to prosecution, how they try to be fair and compassionate, I mean, to Judge Cheeseborough's kind of previous commitment, what are they leaving with at the end of the day? I tell them, I was like, look, I'm not asking you to say that all judges are great, all prosecutors are great, all public defenders are great. But I just hope that when you're, at home in your community and people are saying, like, I can't believe A, B, or C happened, and, can you believe oh, whatever, that judge or prosecutor doesn't care. I hope that you will consider speaking up and say, I don't know that judge, but I do know this. I met a prosecutor once, and they actually were pretty nice and decent, and they grew up kind of where we grew up, and they dealt with some of the challenges that we deal with. And so I think it's also important to, part of building faith and confidence in the judiciary is also, in terms of the actors in front of us, there's not a lot of confidence in public defenders or prosecutors. So making sure to use them as well. I'll also add for participants, not in this program, but if you prefer little kids because you just think, hey, they're much easier to deal with, we also have had, I know Judge Cheesever, I think we talked about that. I've had elementary students in here, and that's the easiest program. All you got to do is bring the marshals and the bomb sniffing dog, and you are you're more popular than Walt Disney and Disney World. You'll do great.
And I'd like to go back to the high school kids. We really see an opportunity for the kids to do what we call teaching up. So we have a 10-point quiz called a reality check quiz. 10 situations that good kids can find themselves in that could land them in federal court or have legal and long-term consequences. So you'll find that on our website, reality check quiz. And we base everything on research, and we have found that students and parents really don't talk much about civics or civics related activities or what's in the news. And so a program like this, they go home. What do we want them to say when they go home? We want to have a little tool that will guide that conversation. So they take the civility quiz home. Maybe that'll help the level at home. And then we have the quiz about how they could get into trouble. And parents love that reality check quiz. Next slide. Okay, so it takes about 4 hours total commitment. 30 minutes to review the materials, 30 minutes to have a meeting with the volunteers, figure out who's going to do what role. It goes quickly, and then 3 hours for the courtroom simulation. Now, don't worry about feeding them lunch. They need to get back to school by lunch, or they need to have the program after lunch. So that doesn't add any extra complications, and absolutely no funding on any of these programs.
Right, and Title I schools have they have school buses are paid by them. They're actually paid, so they have that support, and then some courts have used their attorney admission funds, non-allocated, non-appropriated funds if they wanted to supplement as part of their civic engagement.
And the FBA is happy to partner too.
And we've also got an outside partnership. So we've had where, there's people through FBA come in and pay for, pizza lunch or whatever.
That's right. And I would like to go back to Judge Fruki's remark about virtual. He has done programs from Guantanamo Bay to Hollywood on Zoom. And he would do them even in DC if the kids couldn't get into the courtroom, if it was too hard for them. So keep that in mind. And Judge Fruki, I have been surprised at how warm and connected that is. It feels very real.
Yeah, I mean, I refused to go to Guantanamo Bay when Rebecca offered it, but she then clarified that it was virtual. But I mean, I was amazed that the students. I mean, as a parent who had a kid in Zoom school, did again this week. I was reminiscing with my wife how horrible it is. I was surprised to be on the other end and see that, I think when it's not an everyday thing, it's a one-off. The students are much more engaged. I think Judge Cheesebro, were you jumping in?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, with the civil discourse program in particular, I think it can look a little intimidating when you see this 4 hour commitment bringing folks to the courthouse and things like that. I was wondering if you could talk about your personal experience in terms of both the prep work and then sort of navigating the program once it's going. Obviously, you got to sort of allocate a half a day to this, and we all understand that we can adjust our schedules as we need to accommodate that. But outside of just the time commitment for the program itself, how burdensome did you feel like it was? How did you manage that?
Well, I would say that 4 hours is how much time Rebecca needs, not how much time the judge needs. And so it's kind of
Oh,
like court is that, the law clerks are out there, your court and deputy, they're getting everything started in the beginning, and then you leave and people are still signing detention orders or, writing those things afterwards. And, you've gone, you're back to your chambers. So I think it's probably closer maybe to 2 hours for the judge, I want to say. But, because Rebecca goes there, comes in the morning, she'll set things up, or, she'll have colleagues who, at the circuit libraries, and from there they have a lot of folks involved in civics and the different circuit librarian roles, or people who have, you know, whoever, courtroom deputy, somebody is helping to coordinate things, and they set things up beforehand. You kind of, show up there, you give your heart reason, but they've done a lot of the prep beforehand. But uh, I mean, in terms of the actual substance of preparation, it's really just there because it's, the students are engaged in this, Fourth Amendment debate, First Amendment debate about, for mine, that we've done on Tinker versus Des Moines, about a school walkout, and as well as whether they can wear clothes that in school that might make a statement. But you have student judges, student attorneys, and the attorney volunteers are sort of directing everything. So, I mean, you're not really the conductor like you normally would be in court. Maybe you're more like a juror, that you just show up and listen, and you sort of absorb the information, but you don't have to have, there's not really a much prep time. And certainly after you've done one of these, it's, I mean, very safe to say it's kind of cruise control because you've gotten into it. I think the hardest thing is just getting in there and looking at the students and thinking like, oh my God, I've got, 50 students in my courtroom. I don't normally have that. What is that going to look like? But then you see pretty quickly with the facilitators in the program, it's all already kind of charted out. So it's not, I mean, there's no point in me lying to you. It's not a heavy lift. I really mean it when I say that. It is very manageable. I mean, I did not find it to be like, I mean, it's not like I was burned out at the end after that, oh, that took up the whole day. We're not doing anything else. I mean, I think Rebecca came in, she'll have the people going, the attorney volunteers, after they've been trained, go get the students prepped. You come out, you get on the bench, you ask them some question things, then talk to them for like another half hour to an hour, and then that's it. And you go back. And I mean, we've had hearings and things in the afternoons, no problem.
well, and what's really exciting is when judge has a hearing, has some kind of something
Yeah,
for the
sometimes
kids. Tell them about
sometimes you'll
that.
have something come up and we'll just have a hearing while they're here. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
That's
And
excellent.
also, yeah, that's so important to know that I think another key is that we do the same program a number of times so that everybody gets in there and puts it on cruise control. And then you can riff and have fun. And there have been times Judge Fruki's thought, okay, we need to pep things up a little bit. Let's get a kid on the witness stand. So it truly is amazing. I think cruise control is a good way to describe it. And I promise you, it's less than 30 minutes to read the materials in advance, and you're scripted.
I think this is a perfect time to go ahead and put the video up because it'll show a little bit of this in action. I think it's only everyone is only about 5 minutes. So Cece, if you could go ahead and put that up, I think this would really kind of show you what a lot of these programs look like.
Please put your questions and comments in the chat while we're waiting. Any special requests? You just click on the link and it should be right there. It opens with court employees that Judge Fruki selected to tell their heart reason, kind of tell their path, their adversities they've overcome. And then it goes into the simulation. So you're seeing the civil discourse program here.
Well, one thing I'll add while CC's pulling it up is that, getting in our courtroom staff is, I think, for very helpful for many reasons, right? One is I think gives them an opportunity to get the microphone, which usually we only hold. It's just nice for them to get the recognition they deserve, especially after many of them having worked several weeks through the shutdown without any salary. So it's been. I'll come back after we do the video. But it's been a nice way to get them to highlight how great they are.
And I want you to notice that every student gets to participate as a juror.
CC, I think we don't have any audio.
Yeah.
And I think we get to see Judge Faruqi with a beard and without a beard in one short video.
Yes, yeah, no, it's the full evolution of my winter to summer. I think when you do the share screen, you have to make sure you're clicking on that share audio, which I don't know why they don't default to that, but you may have to reshare.
You might have to start over, right?
Get it done. I don't know, CC. Yeah, I think when you go to the initial share screen, there's like a box on the bottom to click that says.
And I'd like to say a little bit more about the jury part, because if you're an introvert and you just want to talk to your neighbor, you can. If you want to talk to the whole group, you can. Then when we get them debating, they sit on each side of the main aisle. And so if you're leaning a little toward the school, you sit on one side. It's not a decision, it's just an inkling. For the students, you sit on the other side. Then as you change your mind, you stand up and you move from side to side, which gets the kinesthetic learners involved. And we give them a round of applause for having courage to change their mind. So it is not a mock trial, and it is not for the showboats and future attorneys. It is for jurors. The future attorneys, and we even have them sit on the bench with the judge. And judge, tell them about what you do with them in the chambers.
Sure. Yeah. No, CC, I think you've got to, it's on the Zoom setting. So like you have to unshare your screen.
I understand. I can't. It's playing full volume on my screen, and I have all the settings set. So I just am not sure that it is able to play with the volume here right now.
What I suggest is you just show the pictures, and Judge Faruqi and I can be like the silent talkie game. But I think we were going to tell them about what it's like when you take the judges back in the chambers.
Sure, yeah, we bring the students back. They each go in different roles. So some of the students go into the jury rooms to act as the plaintiffs, others as the defendants, and then we bring some back as judges, actually. And it's been really fun. Just they're really excited to be back, of course, in chambers. And when they they all rise, they enjoy that when we come out. And they have the opportunity to get all the students to get up. So you can see there, we have them sitting in the gallery. One of the things Rebecca has, actually, we do like a role play at the beginning and have them sit in different seats. So someone sits in the court reporter seat, someone's standing like the courtroom marshals, others as the courtroom deputy. And then you could see up there, we had two of the students sitting up as judges. And so we're trying to get people to envision themselves in all the roles of the judiciary, not just as a judge. Talk about the court reporters. Rebecca's always getting them, who's the fastest texter. And that always gets, people then trying to show off on their ability to text. And we've actually, the core reporters afterwards offer to mentor some of these students, right? Some students, college is not in their future, but you don't need a college degree to become a core reporter. It's a technical degree that you can go directly to a program after high school. And so this is my courtroom deputy, Tiffany, and so she talked about her journey to getting to the courts, and Rob that works in IT, and both of them talked about how it's the mission that's drawn them in, and that they never thought they necessarily would be in a job where they're in public service or that they'd be doing that as a career for the rest of their life. But they started in this building and they ended up just loving it. It's been for them, to put words in their mouth a little bit, I guess, but they said is that it has been a calling. It's more than a job; it's a calling, and they love that. Here's where we start moving the students around to go into the different seats to get a sense of where they could belong. But the other thing with the court staff, other than giving the opportunity to highlight what amazing staff and people working here, especially getting some recognition, that's great, is it's an opportunity to get their communities, their families, their friends into the courtroom. So one of the best student we get student classroom visits, sorry, courtroom visits we get is from my courtroom deputy. One of her best friends is a high school teacher, and so she brings in her high school students every year, and it's amazing. I think they're very appreciative to Tiffany. I'm very appreciative, but I think for Tiffany, it's a opportunity for her. She feels really great that it's not just that we say that we're a court family. This is a way to demonstrate that we are. And here's our amazing clerk of the court, Angela Caesar, have her come speak to the students as well. She actually had some of the students come and shadow her for a little bit to just see what it's like, again, to be managing the whole courthouse, right? In charge of procurement, IT, the Wi-Fi, right? The simple things like that. It's like, our clerk of the court had to decide on like a $50,000 expenditure to upgrade our Wi-Fi. Here's two of our high school students meeting with her. And so it's really hopefully 360 of the court, to get a sense of what is it like in this building, what are the opportunities, and to get people to feel like there is a sense of belonging for them when they might otherwise think like, I can't be a lawyer, I can't be a judge, I'm not going to go to the fanciest college or law school, I'm not an extrovert, I don't belong. We just want to feel like there are opportunities. So this is one of our attorney volunteers meeting with the students, another two attorney volunteers meeting as they prep them, and then that's us back in chambers, sort of going over the judges. And obviously, we take the time to also talk about sort of what their path is to college. What does it look like? A lot of them talk about, some of the financial concerns. So just tell them that, look, those are concerns I had as well. And I took out student loans. It's not easy and, something to think about. Talking about my mom going to community college. It's a way to save money as well for people if they don't have a straightforward entry into it. So we talk both about the substance, but also hopefully give them an opportunity for some mentorship.
And afterwards, we have the kids get in the well with the adults. We have the adults stand in very different regions of the well, and the kids approach these folks. They get their business card. We've had not only Judge Faruqi opens his chambers, but other adults get together with, looks, here there's the neon Nikes.
No, so this is where you're talking about our Nikes.
I'd like to jump in. I want to keep an eye on our time here too and stick to our hour. We've talked a lot about students, both in the classroom, students in the courtroom, a lot of focus on high school students, although an acknowledgement that elementary school students are a great audience too. I had a pre-K group, which was, they had some wild questions. It was a lot of fun, but a really neat experience. I want to talk very briefly about the third kind of program that we discussed, which is not really student focused, but the way that you can utilize naturalization ceremonies as a form of civics outreach and education. And in leading up to this call today, a lot of the conversation was about all these different stakeholders that can be involved and how you can connect the courts and civics education and outreach through that ceremony. Judge Faruqi, would you mind? I think you had some pretty interesting or unique ceremonies or ways that you connected with members of the community. Would you share some of that?
Sure, yeah. We're really trying hard, I think, in terms of some of our civic engagement committees, civics committees, to think about what are ways to get naturalization ceremonies out of the courthouse, or that when they're in the courthouse to involve people from the community to get them an opportunity to experience that. So Rebecca mentioned already, we were talking about some national parks, a great way to do it. State parks, also another great place to get involved. We've done things at certainly baseball games, a big one, but not just major league, minor league as well. Sometimes that can be a little more of an intimate environment and the audience is more participatory. We had one of the judges at the University of Southern Alabama, I think it was, right, Rebecca, they did a naturalization ceremony at the University of Southern Alabama's basketball game, and their acronym is USA. And so the students were already primed to start chanting USA for when the naturalization ceremony occurred. We've had magistrate judges who have reached out to, I'm amazed by our networking skills, to the connections that we may have that we don't realize, to friends who are at law firms who may represent some of these sports companies, or just people that we know. There's a bankruptcy judge who had a connection with an owner of a team. And so it's from relationships like this where we just reach out to the organization, say, look, we're looking to have a naturalization ceremony. CIS will work with Rebecca. They've got an entire program. If it's at a sporting event, how do we do that? And they've been very receptive to it. So reaching out to, local universities, local sports teams, national sports teams, whatever it is, the symphony. I mean, the art museums, things like that. That's a good one. Obviously music is a huge component in the color guard. So in the courtroom, one of the things we're trying to do right now here in our courthouse is engage with DC Public Schools to get their music directors to bring students in here to sing the national anthem. The one that I asked, their students, I think last year did Katy Perry "Let Me Roar" was their song that they did, and so I thought that'd be great. I mean, they can do the national anthem, but they could also do that, and the kids really got very animated. So I thought it'd be a really fun thing for people to have when they come in for naturalization. And of course, the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, ROTC, getting the color guard to come in. That's a huge kind of exciting opportunity for them, but also for us. So those are just some examples of ways. Even school auditoriums. Some of the schools they have large theater venues or things like that, bringing that naturalization there, just anything to get out into the community or get the community in here. We've also invited schools, if it's during the summer, if there's programming for them if they're looking for something like a summer school program, come watch a naturalization ceremony. Our courthouse is pretty full when we have them, but I know other ones do it more frequently. So that's just one of the ways that we've tried to sort of broaden the aperture with naturalization ceremonies.
Good summary. And kids can write a welcome letter to the new citizens. They talk about how great the hamburgers are that the new citizens have been eating for 10 years.
That's excellent. We're coming right up on our hour. I want to make at least one comment before we close. This is the first one of these we have done, and I kind of went over what our aim was here. But I really sincerely would invite any kind of comment that you all have about what worked or what didn't work or what you think you'd like to see more of. We're hoping to do at least 2 or 3 of these a year and try to make it a regular thing and talk about different types of programs or have other speakers come and speak with us, although I think it's going to be difficult to follow up these 2 panelists that we've had here today. Ms. Fanning, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for all the work that you do in supporting all of our efforts around the country. It is invaluable, and we all deeply, deeply appreciate it. Judge Faruqi, thank you for taking time out of your day. These personal experiences and your commitment, it speaks volume about the role of magistrate judges in outreach and education. It really means a lot to everyone. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And I'll just say, Rebecca always, when she speaks to the district judge, I went to once, and she let him know that the magistrate judges are at the forefront of this, Rebecca. So we always appreciate that when you remind our colleagues who's carrying all carrying the water, doing the heavy work on civics. So thank you for always standing up for us.
My privilege. Thanks, everybody.
All right, great. Thank you all very much. Take care.